I mean, kind of in the same sense as where my biggest disappointment is obviously going to be West Coast, in the same sense where they had a lot of guys back, but there's also a lot of points where it seemed like they were missing half their roster. And that was not only did they fail to live up to expectations, I guess you could throw in the we can make the excuse for injuries, but even when everyone's healthy, they still failed to live up to expectations. They had just a hot and cold season where they look good at Optus, looked horrible on the road, and even times what made the season worse is that they had games where they looked bad at Optus. And so that's why they were kind of my biggest disappointment there too. And hopefully they're able to pick things up next year, at least for Perth. I mean, I think both teams, both of those Perth teams, in Frio and West Coast, I think they have a lot of potential for next year. Are they going to put together? I only time will tell. I don't like from what I've said before this season. I'm just going to stay away from that. I'm not touching Perth with a 10-mile stick on this one. I'm just going to let things play out and just go as it is.
But like for me, I would almost want to go with like this. Like I'm gonna put Collingwood aside because I kind of expected that. I'm gonna put Richmond aside again. I wasn't expecting the injury. Same thing with Frio. My team that honestly I think was the most disappointing was the West Coast Eagles
Yep.
because even with some of the injuries that they had their opportunities to make the finals and they stuffed it up royally.
Mm-hmm.
I
They were in
mean,
it. They were in it.
I cannot believe some of these games that they lost,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" The absolute destruction against Geelong down in Geelong, the absolute destruction again in Geelong when they played Sydney. Nobody expected either of those results
Mm-hmm.
at all. Nobody did. And just I don't know what it was this season, but just the Eagles were so unimpressive in so
Yeah.
many ways for a team that was there in the finals for a
Mm-hmm.
good chunk of the season. I'm thoroughly disappointed with how it ended because that was a finals roster. That was a
Easily.
finals list,
Easily.
and they stuffed it
And, I mean,
legit.
not even making finals, man. Being one of the most hyped teams before the season, and you can't even make it into the top eight. That's bad. That's real bad. And that doesn't that's the kind of bad where it doesn't take explain. That we all just know that that's universally just bad. Um, I mean, not great stuff from West Coast. Hopefully, those fans are able to see a little bit more success next season. I just want to see them good because I mean they're an exciting bunch. You know they're an exciting bunch over there, and well we'll see what we can get next year though ultimately. And now I want to give you before Donnie gives his top five home and away. I just want to we're going to go into our favorite game or moment this year, and I think I kind of talked about it last week. My favorite game ultimately is going to be the GWS Sydney one from the finals, just because we mentioned it last on the show. You can hear a little more in depth breakdown about that. Of course, it helps. I'm a little biased as my favorite team in there, um, and they win, and so that's always going to do it for me on a huge stage. But that was a fantastic game. But I think I guess a little more non-biased one, it could still be a popular pick here, but I'm going to go with it. One of my favorite moments was the after the siren goal from Captain Max Gone for the Melbourne D's in round 23 there against Geelong. They get it done, and not only do they win their first minor premiership since was 1963 there, which of course they then go on to win the finals, but it was just such a cool moment for one of my not. I mean, I think my favorite non GWS player might be Max Gone at this point, and so it was really cool to see that. I mean, that was just a fantastic game of footy in general, let alone that moment that really was one of the climaxes of the entire 2021 season.
Oh boy. So for me, it's going to seem kind of weird, but two of the things that I think that are my moments of the year
Mm-hmm.
are not actually specifically field situations,
Okay.
and let me explain here. Um, Western Australia, I'm going to give you a tip of the cap because
Mm.
you saved
Yep.
the AFL season with being able to host the grand final, but there were two. Dream Time at the G, as in Richmond, incredible
Yeah.
atmosphere, incredible game. Legitimately was so happy to see that game played there for the rich indigenous heritage and at the West, out in the West. for them to be able to host the Dreamtime game. The Dreamtime game was absolutely incredible. Both
Mm-hmm.
Richmond and Essendon played their absolute tails off and an incredible
Love
game.
it. Yep.
But that was one of my moments of the season because I think Dreamtime doesn't just have to be at the G. Now, I understand the G is massive. It's 100,000 people. It's great. But seeing it in the West was incredible. You cannot state, you cannot put words to how incredible the Welcome to Country was. How
Mm-hmm.
all of the performances, the Indigenous performances, and everything that was there, the celebration of Indigenous culture before that game was incredible. Hands down, my one of my moments of the year, and the other one is the grand final in the West.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it turned out absolutely
It is
amazing.
beautiful.
I know
Optus
there's
is
a
so
ton of
different.
people in Victoria going, no, no, but it turned out absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have heard Victorian media saying they think potentially this could be something that could be done once every 3 to 4 years, that it rotates in different states to be able to make it a national
I love it.
game and a national way to resolve it. Now, it's going to be hard considering they have a 50-year contract
Mm-hmm.
in the MCG, and the last 2 years they've extended the contract with the MCG, so it's now 2 more years longer. So we'll have to see how that goes. I don't see the MCC wanting to break that contract, so I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. Unfortunately, we
Mm-hmm.
may be dead and buried before that particular contract gets signed. But I have to say those were two of my favorite moments of the season. Was both of those absolutely spectacular games that everybody usually expects in Victoria, both being in the West, and the West Coast fans and the Perth fans absolutely embracing it, selling both games out, giving
Mm-hmm.
us an incredible atmosphere. So my moments of the year are those two incredible games out in the West. Again, hat tip to all of you out in Western Australia and in Perth. Thank you so much for at least giving us a great crowd atmosphere in those two games, because it absolutely made the season with both of those games. Now,